everybody. This is Mitchell Shields, Senior Financial Planner and Insurance Advisor with Team LWC. On April 16th, we got this year's federal budget, and it was a long document and a lot to digest, and I'm sure people have heard some of the headlines already, but I wanted to spend some time to provide some commentary to our clients on some of the key areas of that budget that we think might affect our clients that we're currently reviewing across all of our book of business, and we'll be relaying to you in your upcoming meetings. The big one was we got to change to the capital gains inclusion rate. So for years, tax professionals have had this on their bingo card of potential things that could have been in a budget, and this year we got it. But unlike how most predicted, the inclusion rate was not increased to 75%, but instead increased to 2/3, so 66% effectively. And with that, what that means is any capital gains after June 25th of 2024 that are realized, whether it be personally, corporately, or through a trust, now instead of 50% of that capital gain being included in income, now 2/3 of that capital gain will be included in income. What that means is that capital gains will be essentially 8 to 9% more expensive on a tax basis than they were previously. To make things a little bit more confusing, for individuals, on the first $250,000 of capital gains that they earn, that amount is going to be at the old inclusion rate, that 50% inclusion rate, and any capital gains above that will be at the 66% inclusion rate. That does not apply to trusts and corporations, however. So what that means is that if you earn capital gains in a corporation, you will be paying higher taxes on the first $250,000 than if you were to earn those capital gains individually. Now, that does change some things for people who are investing in a corporation. And it is something that we're looking at across our entire client base because, as I'm sure most clients who are watching this are aware, many of our clients have corporate considerations and invest within their corporation. So it's something that we're looking at. On top of that, something that's going to affect a lot of our clients is going to be stock options are also going to be caught in this. And what that means is for that first $250,000, stock option benefits are also going to be included on top of with the capital gains to reach that limit. And the deduction available to capital or to stock option benefits is going to be reduced from 50% to 33%. Now, one of the problems with this budget is we've got a lot of information in this budget. We got 430 pages of information, but we didn't get a lot of draft legislation. So a lot of this is still a little bit of a moving target. That also applies to some of the other changes that I'm not going to dive deep here, but things like the changes to the employee ownership trust. There's a lot of ambiguity. Changes to the AMT. We seem to have a win on the charitable side, and they seem to have pulled back their concerns around the inclusion of charitable tax credits. But again, we're not seeing final legislation, so there's still a lot of question marks up in the air. One of the other things that we do know or that we saw as well that is going to affect clients is we saw the increase to the home buyers plan attached to the RRSP. So what does that mean as kind of a refresher is if you're a first-time home buyer, which could apply to some of our clients, but maybe a lot of our clients' children, when you're buying a home for the first time, you can withdraw money from your RRSP, your retirement account, tax-free, and use it to purchase a qualifying first home. Previously, you could take $35,000 each. So if you're married or a common law, you each could take $35,000 out to make this out of the RRSP. That amount has now been increased to $60,000 each, so we can pull $120,000 each. In addition, they've increased the grace period of when that money needs to start being paid back into the RRSP. And instead of 2 years, like it was previously, now it'll be 5 years before you have to start paying that back into the RRSP. And the payment period will still be 15 years. So with that, you'll have 20 years to fully repay this back to your RRSP if you don't want it to be included in your taxable income. One of the areas of potential confusion that I've already heard from some of our clients is they did not make any changes to the new first home savings account that was introduced last year. The RRSP home buyers plan and the first home savings account that was introduced in the budget last year are two independent vehicles that can be utilized in conjunction to make a purchase of a home. So the changes they made to the RRSP home buyers plan is not affecting the first home savings account, and there is still no provision to pay back that first home savings account. One of the other changes that we saw in this year's budget is that the government has increased the amount that can be eligible for the lifetime capital gains exemption when selling qualified small business corporate shares. So what that means is that if there is a transaction where you're selling shares of a qualified small business corporation, that first 1.25 million can be exempt from taxes, assuming certain conditions apply. The conditions themselves were not changed, but the amount was increased to 1.25 million, and that will continue to index now on an annual basis. In conjunction with that, the Liberals introduced something called the Canadian Entrepreneurs Incentive, which has some comparable provisions to the lifetime capital gains exemption, but has some more stringent requirements attached, which, if those requirements are met, then up to $2 million, phased in at $200,000 a year, just to make things a little bit more confusing, will be taxed at half of the capital gains inclusion rate. So if that wasn't confusing enough, I'll circle back on that one more time. So essentially that means if part of that capital gain was going to be charged at the 50% inclusion rate, if it was in that first 250,000, that'll now be at a 25% inclusion rate under this entrepreneur incentive, or the amount that would have been taxed at a 2/3 inclusion rate will be moved down to a 1/3 inclusion rate if it qualifies for this incentive. But again, we're going to have to see some more draft legislation and final legislation to get the full picture of how this is going to play out and how it's going to affect our business owners who are looking to sell their business. So with that, lots to cover in this budget, and we have provided a more fulsome commentary on some of the other measures that were in that budget that may or may not be relevant to everybody, but really wanted to take this opportunity primarily to hit the main points and let everybody know that your Team LWC planning team is on top of these changes. We review the budget as it comes out, and we're making sure that we're adapting accordingly to keep you and your family on track towards your financial goals. So with that, any questions you have, you can reach out to myself or my team, or you can speak to any of my colleagues here at Team LWC. And as I said, we'll be continuing to have these conversations as we work through our update, our review meetings that are coming up, and also as we assess the situation, and if we think there's any major changes that need to be made, we will be corresponding with all of you accordingly. Again, thanks so much, and talk to you soon.